Hello, this is Gary Simon, and in this video we're going to design the middle section, actually the top middle section for our homepage mock-up. So right now this design up here is probably only about 15 to 20% of the actual content that we're going to be designing for. So we have ourselves a little bit ways to go. So let's just continue on. I'm going to go to image canvas size and just take the height and really increase it to from 15 to about 40 and hit OK. And I'm going to take the fill tool and take our background layer here and just fill this all in with white. Alright, so we see we have quite a bit of room to work with now. Alright, so the space down here, we're going to have basically just two testimonials. And so let's bring up our columns just to get a good idea of where we want. Hit Control T, rather select the columns layer and hit Control T, and we'll just drag all the way down. And select the Move tool, hit Apply. Alright, so yeah, basically we have in this these 6 columns right here will have a testimonial, and then in these 6 columns right here we'll have another testimonial. And then when the if you're viewing it on the phone, of course, they won't float, or a tablet, they won't float aside to each other, they'll be on top, but we'll get more into that later. So what I wanted to do is kind of have an icon like right around here, and then the actual quote and the logo, kind of like a watermark, gray version of a logo underneath, and just have two different testimonials side by side. So I want to get started with that icon right here, and it's just going to be like a quote icon. So what I want to do is take the ellipse tool, and we have a white foreground selected, and then starting right around here, we'll just shift and hold Alt and drag out roughly around this size. And then what we want to do is go ahead and hit Control H twice to get rid of that. And I'm going to double click on this and hit Stroke. And we'll go ahead and specify inside for the position. And the size we're going to increase just a little bit to right around 6. And the color, we're going to make a light gray. Hit OK and OK. And I'm going to get rid of the columns real quick. And that seems to be pretty decent in terms of color. So then what I want to do is go ahead and right click this and hit rasterize layer style. And what that will do is no longer can we edit that style, it's just rastered the whole thing. And you'll see why further. But I do want to take the magic wand tool, and with a tolerance of 32, we'll turn anti-aliasing on. Let's change that back down to, we'll just say 5. We can hit the delete key, and that gets rid of everything in the middle. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is right click and just duplicate this layer, and then just hide it. And we'll just call this blank circle. And we'll reuse this when we create other icons down here in the future. So now that we have that, I just want to put like a quote right here. So I'm going to use the type tool and just put a quote right there, double quote. I'll drag it up and change the color to this color right here. And that's not the font I want to use, so I'm going to experiment real quickly. And I'm going to hit the up arrow, and I'm just going to choose something that looks like a pretty good quote. And again, you don't have to use exactly what I'm using. Of course, I'm hoping you're following along with your own project. I probably should have figured out which one I wanted to use before this, but that's fine. All right, so this works pretty well. And what we'll just do is I'm going to delete this and make it a single quote actually. Duplicate it. And then I will just move this over so I can position exactly where I want it. All right, and then I will take both of these and we're going to move them up just right around here. And then I'm going to zoom up, and for the actual ellipse right there, the layer will select that. We'll take the pen tool and choose path, and we'll kind of just outline this just on this upper portion. Right click and select make selection, hit OK, and then hit the delete key. And we can position a little bit more with the arrows. All right, so that looks pretty good for the first icon for our quote. So we could take all these layers and just hit Control E, and we'll call this quote. We'll just icon dash quote. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now what I want to take is right here to the right hand side. We'll get the type tool and we'll put the actual quote right here. So let's get our columns back up. Now we want this to extend right here to the sixth column. So what we'll do is, with the type tool selected, we'll select right here on the beginning of the second column and just drag right there to the end of the sixth column. And I'm just going to real quickly just put, well, one second. I'll enlarge this so that you can see it in a second. But I'm just going to put awesome job, very imaginative. The website makes the whole process painless to great service. I'm going to change the source Sans Pro. And we'll try 18 or so. Choose auto for there, and let me get rid of the columns. Make sure sharp is selected, and choose that. And I want to choose light here for the font style. Alright, so now we can drag this up just a little bit. And I don't have this is an actual quote I'm going to use. I just made that up. So once I get to the HTML CSS and we go live, I will get an actual quote. So this is also the logo that will go right here to signify, who said it from what company. I'm just going to pull it from, I think, this high-tech logo right here. And I'll just paste it and Control T and shrink it to right around there, and make it a luminosity for the layer style, or layer blend mode rather, and we'll put it right around there. I think that's fine. Alright, so now what we want to do is go ahead and take this text, this, and this icon and duplicate it. So with auto layer selected, if we just select this, hold shift, and then hold shift, we have these three up there. I'll go ahead and group them, hit Control G, call this quote 1, and then we can duplicate the group and call it quote 2, and uncheck that, and we'll move this over, make sure our grid is up. And it starts right there. Okay, so let me hide the grid. All right, so of course this will be a second one. It'll be different. All right, I think that's pretty good. Now what I want to do, beneath this area here, we're going to have a section where we just kind of get more specific about, what we cover exactly. And we'll have a container that's kind of gray. And so let's get started with that. First, I want to, I don't want just 100% white area. The container is going to be a light gray. So first thing we'll do is get out the rectangle tool and just drag out roughly to around this size. And we'll double click here. Oops. And we want it to be pretty a light gray, so FO, 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 or 0 rather. All right, and I kind of want to use the same design right here, except it'll be a grayscale on the top version of this. So also another way to quickly select a layer, if it's not on auto select layer, you just hit Control and then left click, and it will select that layer right here. So let me see here. I'm just going to duplicate this, and we'll drag it to the top here. We can make it a clipping mask, and then we'll drag this down, and we can change the opacity right around 10%. All right, and then I'm going to take this text here. It's going to be kind of another headline right over here, and it's going to be centered as well. So I selected the layer. We'll duplicate that. We'll just move this down, drag it up here at the top, and in here it's going to say, let us take care of your visual identity. Alright, and it's going to be mostly black. We're actually going to change some of the words, the colors. Let's get out the columns here and turn that on. Drag this to the top. Control T. Scale it down a little bit. I don't want it to be too big. I don't want it to compete with the text at the top. But I think right around here is pretty good. Actually, I want to scale that down just a little bit more. Hit apply. All right, let's get rid of the column view. And we'll take the type tool and select visual identity here. And just use this same color right here. All right, so now what I want to do is kind of put an icon right here, but it's not going to be based on this design. It's just going to be kind of like an eye. So we'll come over here. We'll view the grid. And I want to make sure in my foreground we have this color selected and shape is selected. Alright, so I'm going to select right there and select right here, and then we're going to come up just around right to there, and then hold the Alt key and click once, and then bring it back and do the same thing right there. So now we can hide the grid by hitting Control H twice. And now what I want to do is create a new layer, make it a clipping mask, hit OK, and select a slightly darker color right there. Take the rectangle tool And actually I want to position this at the bottom just to create a little bit of depth. Alright, and then what I want to do is take the ellipse tool. If I Control H, we can get the grid back. And I want to take this color here, this gray in the background, and drag out an eyeball. Roughly to around that size. And Control H, get rid of this. Then take the pen tool again, and I'll select right around here. Alright. Now if I go back to 100%, it's a little bit too large, so what I want to do is take all those shapes. I believe these 4 are them. I'm just going to group them real quick. Hit Control T. And scale it down. Alright, and select that and hit apply. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is, in this area there's going to be 4 basically circles, and inside them will be specific designs. And so the first thing we need to do is get the columns, and each one of these icons really, they're going to be 3 column widths in width, but they're going to be centered, and they're not going to take up the full width of the column. So you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I take the ellipse tool, and basically somewhere here around the center, I'm going to hold shift and drag out, and the size will be right around here. And just so I can see it, I'll make it black. And then what I want to do is take the pen tool with this color selected, make sure that's our foreground, and I'm going to just select right around here to the a little bit left of center, hold shift, and do the same thing. We'll change that color to that gray. And get rid of the columns real quick. I'll just hit Control T and scale this up a little bit. Alright. And then in the inside, we're going to actually put an image. So this first one, this caption underneath right here will be logo design. So just to get that out of the way real quick, I'm going to take this text and just hit, just duplicate it real quick. Put it up here. Just position it somewhere right around there. Logo design. And I'm going to make it, I'm going to try 16 for the size. And really, if we wanted this to be centered the same width as this, we can just move that over and hit center. And then what I wanted to do, we'll take this and duplicate it. So I want to take this layer, and this. We're going to group this. We'll call this, we'll just call this logo design. Right click, duplicate group. Let's get the columns out. Move this over here to the middle of these 3 columns. And we'll duplicate both of those. Move these over here in the middle of the 3 of these. So, alright. So, this one will be called Identity Colors. And I will change that text right here. Let me get rid of the columns so you can see this better. This one right here will be stationary. And this one over here will be called social presence. All right, let me collapse those. Okay. So now what I want to do is put like an image in each one of these to represent what exactly each of these means. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to open up this file right here. It's called Presentation, and this is just a mock-up identity presentation that I did. And so for the first one, since it is logo design, obviously logo design code, that's one of the basic, most simple, obvious things that we do. I'm going to take the logo up here, kind of just copy that whole area right there, edit, copy, merged, and then in here we'll hit Control and left click to select the layer, create a new layer, create a clipping mask, and Control V to paste. So probably paste it over here somewhere. Okay. Control T, I'm going to scale it down while holding Shift and the Alt key. And I wanted to kind of first skew this as well. So Edit, Transform, Skew. Edit, Transform, Distort rather. Hit Apply. Alright, and then for identity colors, I'm not going to use an image. I'm just going to create a design kind of abstract just to illustrate, what the color palette of this logo right here, for instance, would be. So I'm going to select that layer, and it's going to be around just this gray. It's going to be a little bit darker. Hit OK. Then take the ellipse tool, and I'm just going to drag out, hold Alt here, and Shift. And the color is going to be darker here. And then right click, duplicate layer, move it over here. And this one's going to be roughly that color. Right click, duplicate layer. This one's going to be white. Now I'm going to take all three of these and hit Control T, scale them up just a little bit. All right. And then for the middle one, for the blend mode, I'm going to hit the down arrow key. And I think multiply works well. And then experiment with the white one as well. We want this to appear white, but we want it to blend well. Alright, I think overlay kind of works pretty good for that. Alright, and then for stationery, I had a preview of some business cards right here. And so I'll just go ahead and just take this whole area, edit, copy, merged. Do the same thing for this right here. Create a new layer, Control V, Control T, and scale them just to where you can notice what they are. They are business cards. Apply. Alright, and then for social presence we'll have, oh, and I spelled that wrong by the way. We'll have just going to scroll down here. I may ultimately use something different for social presence. This is kind of like an app icon. So what I'll just do is select right around here, edit, copy, merged, create a new layer, make it a clipping mask. and leave it right around there. And I'm going to select this container, hit Control-T, and extend it just down a little bit further. And then down here, we're going to have a portion of centered text. So real quickly, I'm just going to take that text, duplicate it, and drag it to the top of all the layers. And let me collapse these real quick. We'll view the columns. And let's make that centered. And then double click right here, and we'll extend it basically to the, just about to the full width of the 12 grids. And I'm going to type up, actually I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste some text that I have in a different window that you cannot see, because I don't want to have to type this all out. Control V to paste. I'm going to hide the columns. Alright, this kind of looks off because this right here is hanging off, so it doesn't look like it's centered real well. So I'm just going to go select this, take this group 1, just move it over a little bit, and go ahead, hit Control-T, drag that up just a tad bit, hit apply. Alright, let me select all of these layers, just drag out, move them up just a little bit so we have the same white space between these two portions. Okay, that's cool. Now, one of the things I wanted to do is when we're actually live in the browser with this design and we scroll down, this logo design and the portfolio testimonials login, the nav bar basically, will kind of just come with us. So we'll see as we're scrolling down this bar that will stay at a fixed position. So down here, once we actually get to the next video, we're going to have more icons to design in the fashion of that quote one up there. And we're going to have 6 areas that elaborate even more further and more specifically, you know, the details of the service. And then finally down here we'll have another area that tries to get a strong call to action for a phone number and to actually get started and to be able to order. So I will see you in that video. All right, goodbye.